How's everybody doing? I'm Max Jensen in for Jay this week, and this is Midco Motorsports. The 360 Knoxville Nationals kicked off 2 weeks of racing at the famed track. The winner would be a familiar name, but a first-time winner of the Nationals, and it's this week's A feature. Start of the 20-lap main event. Nasty crash here as Aaron Reutzel gets into the back of John Egan, and that would trigger the crash. Sammy Swindell is forced into the fence and then is hit hard by Alex Hill while upside down in the air. Harley White also takes a tumble. Sammy would get out of his car a little groggy, but okay. White and Hill were both uninjured. The second restart, and this time, the 17X of Josh Bauman gets the jump on the pole setter Tim Schaefer, but before a lap is complete, Schaefer would regain the lead. Schaefer steering through some smoke, and he would sprint to the victory, his first 360 win at Knoxville Raceway. On to night 2 and the second preliminary race. Start of the 20-lap main event, Trace Starks, the pole setter, would lead the charge into turn 1 with Brian Brown right behind. On lap 2, Brown would slide to the lead and take the top spot away from Starks. But on lap 6, Starks would get back by Brown for the lead, and Greg Hodnett shoots by for second. Hodnett started 5th. On lap 8, Hodnett gets by Starks to head the field, and he would never be challenged again, and he would cruise to his first 360 win at the famed racetrack. And on to the 360 finals at the Knoxville Nationals. The 25-lap main event would see Clint Gardner from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, jump out to the early lead with Wayne Johnson in second. Gardner would open up a comfortable lead. With 12 laps to go, this was the closest Johnson would get to Gardner, as Gardner holding him at bay. Late in the race, Brian Brown gets by Johnson for second as Brown charged from his 12th starting spot. Garner would take the checkered flag for the $15,000 payday, his biggest win of his career, number 33 and 5th of the season. Now on to the Capitani Classic. It's a tribute race to honor Ralph Capitani, a track promoter who recently passed away. Start of the 25-lap main event, Greg Hodnett beats pole setter Kerry Madsen into turn 2 for the lead. Blackjack Brian Brown, who started 8th, catches Hodnett and passes him for the lead on lap 4. Brown would be the better of the two, and he would take the checkered flag for the win. And for more from the Knoxville Nationals, let's send it down to Midco SN's Brian Shawn.
I think one of the things that makes this so unique is the Knoxville Nationals special in itself. It's the biggest race of the year that everybody gets prepared for. And with the battle that we had with Donnie Schatz is what made it so special for personally myself. So to come back here and see the magnitude of fan support and to have a post revealing, I think it speaks magnitude in itself.
All right, here at the Knoxville Nationals, as we get set to kick things off with the 5-Hour Energy 57th Annual Knoxville Nationals, Brian Shawn, Mike's speaker here to set things up for you a little bit. And first of all, Mike, let's talk about a few of the local guys that we have on the scene. Wade Nygaard, just his second time that he has raced in the Knoxville Nationals, first time since 2011. Thomas Kennedy here for just the second time. Then, of course, Mark Dobmeyer, who won a race here earlier this year, also here as well. Those are kind of the drivers that we know from our neck of the woods, and kind of exciting to see how those guys will do. Certainly Thomas Kennedy fared very well in the 360 Nationals here.
Yeah, definitely. It's always exciting when our local boys come down to race with the best. Like you said, Thomas Kennedy, what he finished 14th in the 360 Nationals last year. That's really exciting for the Grand Forks, Fargo area, North Dakota, South Dakota. And he's got an elite ride, too, with BDS Motorsports. That's one of the top 360 programs in the country. So to not only put it in the A main, he's got good backing behind him and great experience. So that's really awfully exciting. And like you said, Wade Nygaard, he's got 260-some career wins. And he's one of the best in the country, too. So to see him down here racing here at Knoxville, it's awfully exciting.
And for Dobmeyer, he's won a race here. Matt Jewell from South Dakota was the Knoxville Rookie of the Year last year here at the Nationals. He's also won a race here this year. It'd be interesting to see how those two guys do, because they could very easily find themselves in the big show here on Saturday night.
Yeah, Dobmeyer, he's almost a shoo-in now, it seems like, to get in that A main. He's won a prelim night here a few years back. As you just mentioned, he won just a weekly show here at Knoxville. So he might kind of be a dark horse to maybe, challenge for that win. You never know how things line up with this format and everything. Matt Jewell, he can win just about anywhere he goes. Whether it's 360, 410, whatever. So definitely two guys, North Dakota, South Dakota, they got a lot of guys to pull for and, a lot of good horses to cheer for here this week.
Donnie Schatz had won 6 Knoxville Nationals in a row up until last year when Jason Johnson held him off on the final turn. crazy to think that way that race went down. Maybe the best we've seen, certainly since I've been coming down here the last dozen years. How exciting do you think that was for Donnie to get back here and try to get back on top again? Because the guy that takes a lot of pride in this event.
Yeah, you know, Schatz has got to get after this one. He's got to want this one the most, if out of anyone, you would think. He's finished, I think, first or second in the last 15 years, and to kind of he got flat out beat last year. I mean, no sugarcoating it. Jason Johnson got up on the wheel and he beat Schatz last year. Schatz wants this one this year, and it's going to be an awfully good show.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of great racing. The weather looks good all weekend long, which is the most important thing when you get here to Knoxville. Things can get really crazy if the weather gets bad. Mike, we'll look forward to a really good Nationals event coming up here this week, and we'll recap it next week on Midco Motorsports. Mike Speaker joining myself, Brian Shawn, here at the Knoxville Nationals. Back to you.
Thanks, guys. Well, coming up next, we have a great story about overcoming a mid-season setback and getting back into the groove. Our Inside Track with Thomas Kennedy. Welcome back. When you climb into a sprint car, there's no warning sticker needed. Each driver understands that the combination of high speeds and a tiny dirt oval is dangerous. For Winnipeg, Manitoba driver Thomas Kennedy, he's experienced the highs and the lows of the sport. And as Midco SN's Jody Norstead explains on this week's Inside Track, those two came to a head earlier this season.
Racing legend Mario Andretti summed up his sport pretty well when he said, "If you have everything under control, you're not moving fast enough." It's the unforgiving nature of the sport that so many can't resist, even after some of the worst nights.
I was knocked out for 10 minutes, so I don't quite remember after bouncing and starting to flip and then getting in the ambulance.
27-year-old Thomas Kennedy has been tightening lug nuts since he was a youngster. It just comes with the territory of being a third-generation sprint car driver. And so does all of the advice, whether he asks for it or not.
You know, sometimes, you don't want to listen to them because you're either your grandfather or your dad, like anything else, right? You're like, what are you talking about, right?
My dad's still at it, and he's 78 years old, still watches us and figures he can still show us how it's done.
This year, race nights have had a different feel for the Kennedy racing team. Thomas's dad, Lou, retired following his 35th year of racing last summer, ending the streak of 9 years of racing against each other, but starting a new chapter in the process.
When I decided to get out of the seat, that was it. I'm done the driving side, and now my job is to support TJ and mentor him and teach him to be a better driver.
Going to the races on the weekend and then having to work on both cars before the beginning of a night, but now that it's one team, we can all focus on one car, one driver, and it's helped out a lot.
And the numbers back that up. From April to early June, Kennedy finished in the top 5 in 12 straight features, highlighted by 6 trips to victory lane. That's when we first caught up with him, following win number 6 at Jackson Motorplex, as he was preparing for a 3rd straight night of racing there.
We're on our 6th win this year since last night, and hopefully we can keep trucking, and our plan is to win again tonight, so hopefully we can do that.
Lap 3, Friday's winner Thomas Kennedy running 3rd when he wobbles, then goes airborne in turn 2. Just a nasty wreck. Kennedy suffered a severe concussion.
Rolled into the corner a bit high and hit one bump, and then it upset my car, and then I hit another 2 right after, and it just was along for the ride from there.
He's had a couple good wrecks, but normally the other couple of good wrecks he's had, I've been on the track, so I never witnessed it. So that's the first really hard wreck that I've witnessed him, and I knew it was a bad one, and he got a little knocked out and wrecked the car.
Thomas was diagnosed with a concussion and spent 6 hours in the hospital that night. His race to get back on the track required some patience.
The first week I couldn't do anything. I had headaches like crazy. I never get headaches, and vision was screwed up. And for the first 2 weeks, after the first week, I started doing some things around the house, and about 2 weeks after that, I got checked up again, and they gave me the okay to go racing, so I did.
Just 13 days removed from the wreck, Kennedy was back in the car at River City Speedway, racing with the World of Outlaws. 4 laps into the A-main feature, rain forced a long delay, and Kennedy decided his night was over.
So those right rear tires are a lot softer than what we normally run, so they shake the car a lot more and they shake your vision. And, you know, in the past, I've never had troubles, but, you know, getting in a crash like that and, you know, having a concussion, you know, I felt everything, and so I wasn't quite ready to, you know, go hard.
With the aid of physiotherapy, Kennedy said it took close to a month, but his vision is now clear and he feels back to 100% behind the wheel. Recent results can back that up. He has 5 top 5 finishes since returning to the track in late June.
You know, that's part of racing. You're gonna expect to get hurt a little bit every once in a blue moon, you know. Just hopefully it's not as severe, which it wasn't, which I'm thankful for. And, you know, all my safety gear and everything kept me safe.
At the end of July, BDS Motorsports hired Kennedy to drive their #1 car for a couple of weeks. Kennedy finished 14th in the 360 Knoxville Nationals feature and 17th in the Capitani Classic. He's also competing in the 410 Knoxville Nationals starting tonight. Donnie Schatz pulled his late model out for the NLRA Late Model Show in Ada, Minnesota. We'll show you how he did next on Midco Motorsports. Welcome back. Fall-like conditions greeted drivers at Norman County Raceway in Ada as the NLRA Late Model Series came to town. In the IMCA mods, Michael Johnson is one of the hottest drivers on the circuit over the last month. He's trying to hunt down race leader Jamie Trotner here in the early laps. Trotner is better out of turn 4, but Johnson has the better line coming out of turns 1 and 2 to gain the lead. Opposing drivers have had to get used to seeing the 84 out front. Nobody was touching Johnson on this night. The Moorhead native felt that he may not have had the best car, but he did enough for the win for the 3rd time in the last month.
Probably the biggest concern is you don't know if another line might be faster, so I was trying to keep an eye out for what that might be. I was feeling pretty good drifting through the middle, so I felt like that was probably going to be okay.
The headliner capped off the night. 24 late models on the track for the NLRA Special, including World of Outlaws sprint car points leader Donnie Schatz. Huge change of events before they could even complete one lap. Don Shaw in the 42S is battling Ricky Weiss for the lead, and as they get into turn 3, Weiss goes low but slides up right in front of Shaw, who holds his line and ends up spinning out Weiss. That's a painful mistake for Shaw, who gets sent to the back of the pack as a result. He still ended up finishing 5th. Meanwhile, Weiss returns to the front pairing with Ryan Mickelson. On the restart, it's NLRA points co-leaders Weiss and Dustin Strand trying to chase down Mickelson. Weiss slides by right in front of the crowd. On lap 5, it's Strand shooting past Mickelson to move to 2nd place, but Strand's night would end early thanks to some mechanical issues. Tough break for the Grand Forks driver. Weiss had a comfortable lead for several laps, but when he hit lap traffic, other drivers gained some ground. Donnie Schatz and Mickelson nipped at his heels for a few laps. As the white flag was about to drop, Schatz gets aggressive on the inside, hitting the throttle and coming out of turn 4, but Weiss maintains his lead. Then, on the final pair of turns, Schatz, who started 9th, makes one last attempt, trying the outside this time, but Weiss does a nice job of blocking any passing lanes. The Manitoba native holds on for a crucial win that gives him sole possession of 1st place in the NLRA standings.
About 5 to go, I looked up and Schatz was in 2nd, so I put a little more kick in the car, and we just ran it as straight as we could and tried to get around lap cars, and it all paid off.
All right, let's move across the border into North Dakota and the famous Bull Ring to the late models, and let's go straight to lap 11 of 20. In lap traffic, Bill Mooney bumps Nicholas Minsky, and that slows Mooney down enough for points leader Dustin Strand to take over the 2nd spot. Zach Nosted was the car to beat on this night. He led the first 17 laps and looked almost unbeatable. But don't tell that to Dustin Strand. He works his way to the Z17 with 3 laps to go. Strand makes his move on the backstretch. He would hang on for a 6th win at the Bull Ring this season.
I guess the lap cars played into my favor. Like I say, Zach kind of had that deal locked up if he wouldn't have got jammed up, and it's a lot easier running 2nd in lap cars because you can kind of see what's opening up and where the holes are.
In the NOSA Sprint feature, Nick Amdahl and last season's RCS points champ Casey Mack battle for the lead on lap 3. But later, in a battle for 2nd, Bobby Martin and Austin Pierce make contact and Martin spins out. He would not finish the race, but Casey Mack would, and he would do it before anyone else, picking up his 1st win at RCS this season after winning a track championship last season without winning a race.
winning here is just something special, and it's fun to win everywhere else, but winning at River City Speedway in front of all the hometown fans here, and they get such a good crowd here every week. It's something awesome.
Elijah Zievenbergen had 7 wins coming into Friday night's weekly racing in Rock Rapids. What would be in store for the 66 this week, and would he be able to jump to the top of the standings next on Midco Motorsports? Welcome back to Midco Motorsports. It was a fall-like night in Rock Rapids, Iowa, as drivers met for weekly racing at Rapid Speedway. Elijah Zievenbergen was looking for his 8th win at the track on the season, but we will start out with the Sportsman Special.
Hey, it's a candy toss. Everyone likes some candy at a dirt track. Andy Wazorek gets out to the early lead in the Sportsman Special, but he would have major car issues and have to dive off track, surrendering the lead to Marnie DeBoer. She would drive away from the field and the win was in sight, but a late caution would set up a green-white checker finish, and DeBoer would cut a front right tire and would end up finishing 6th. Final lap, Brandon Jurens out front going into turn 4, and he wins down the home stretch for his first win at the track.
Well, after last year at Joel, I did 5 drive shafts, I believe, so this win tonight was awesome. After that lap, and then I pretty much stayed in the middle of the track.
Onto the USRA B mods, Coulter Deutsch and Trevor Tesch lead the field at the start. The 16 of Brock Hess is able to get past Deutsch for the lead. Last lap, Hess trying to hold off Tyler Johnson, and he's able to, picking up a win at a track he hasn't been to in a couple years.
In this class, it's so competitive, you got to be in the first 3 rows, otherwise it's really, really difficult to win.
And the final race of the night, the USRA Stock Cars, Elijah Zievenbergen starting 9th on the night's final race. He was looking for his 8th win at the track this season. It wouldn't take long for the 66Z to make his presence known, as he was able to move from 9th to 3rd, and then on the very next lap, move from 3rd to 1st. He would not look back once he got to the lead, and he pulled away from the field, picking up that 8th victory.
The wings on the sprint car play a major role in keeping the car on track. Chris Shirek and Brian Shawn dive into the importance of sprint car wings in this week's Shop Talk. Next. And welcome back. Sprint cars fly around the track at amazing rates of speed, and the wings play a big role in keeping the car on track. Chris Shirek and Brian Shawn give us the dirt on sprint car wings in this week's edition of Shop Talk.
Back for more Shop Talk here in Mark Dobmeyer's shop with Chris Shirek, our Midco SN Racing analyst, and today we're going to be talking about the wings on the sprint car. Now, everybody sees this big wing right here, which obviously plays a huge role in how the car gets downforce and gets traction on the track. The front wing also plays a critical role, Chris. How do these two work together and the importance of one on the other?
They both play a sister effect. If you lose a top wing, obviously you're not going to have very good handling on the rear end. You lose a front wing, you're not going to have very good handling on the front end. The two together plants the whole car down. Throughout the night, the track will dry off. So you're moving the wing, you're going to want to move the wing towards the back. You can do that with a wing adjuster, a wing slider inside the cockpit. That's the driver's only saving grace for adjustments during the race in the car. A lot of times they'll water the track, or they'll do something right before the start of the race, so the car's really tight and really stuck to the track. As the track dries off and as your fuel load wears off, your car starts to get loose. So you start pulling on that wing, you're moving that wing back. Another deal that they came out with within the past year or two are these wicker bills. On the top of this one, it's got a 2-inch wicker bill. As the track dries off, you put a 2-inch wicker bill, a little bit bigger wicker bill on the top, get a little bit more downforce on that rear end, and every little bit helps.
Let's say you're driving and you bend up your front wing, you get in a little bit of you touch somebody. That obviously plays a factor. How do you compensate for that as a driver, and how does that change what you have to do with your top wing compared to if your front wing is damaged?
Most of the time, if the top wing is back a ways and your front wing either falls off or gets destroyed, you'll move your front wing forward a little bit just to kind of compensate for the two. You're never going to have a perfectly handling race car when your front wing is gone, or if you lose a sideboard, or even a sideboard on a front wing. Every piece on these wings plays a huge factor.
So when you're going throughout, when you're adjusting these wings throughout, what are you looking for in your front wing? How important is it to make sure everything is lined up from an aerodynamic standpoint, or does that play a factor at all?
The front wings, usually you set them and you forget them. You kind of have a set front wing that you go with. The top wing, you can adjust the angle up and down, and you can adjust the angle during the race with that wing slider forward and back. Every driver has different pitches that they like for, how much angle they want on the top wing. And then just throughout the night, you'll be moving that wing forward and back, just placing downforce wherever you need to on the car.
Does it determine too where you want to run the wing is where you're running on the track? You want to run high, you want to run low, certain parts on the track, is that where it certainly plays a factor as well?
It does and it doesn't. For me, I always liked running on the top, but if I needed to run the bottom, I didn't quickly change my wing. But if the track was really wet on the bottom and I was running the top the whole time, you might push your wing forward just to get a little less traction on the back end so the car wasn't tight going into the corner or coming out of the corner.
And as a driver, do you just develop a feel for that? Is this one of those things that you just have to get in a car and turn enough laps to know what feels right to you?
Yep, and that's just takes time. You can kind of feel when the car is kind of slipping. If you're driving on ice, you can kind of feel your tires slipping. You don't stay in the gas, you let go of the gas and you just kind of feel with it. Same thing with these cars. If you feel your rear tires starting to spin, you just feather the throttle a little bit, move your wing back, and stand on the gas.
Stand on the gas. You know how to do that. That's Chris Shirek, that's Shop Talk.
Well, that is our time for this week. We'll see you next time.